will apply this on tourism. In the observatory, we are dealing with 5 points. First, the world performance of the sector. Second, basic information on its performance in Egypt, Egypt's competitiveness compared with the selected countries, and the affecting factors on Egypt. Lastly, policies of priority in light of the practical trends. First, the relative performance of the sector. Worldwide tourism in 2015. If you have 2015, 2016, this would be the latest published data. This is according to the UNWTO of 2016. Tourism worldwide represents 7% of the total services and products exports, 10% of total GDP, provides 1.10 jobs. Here, what are the 10 countries attracting tourism, and where does Egypt stand? France, USA, Mexico is ranked 10th in 2010, and it's not much different 2015. Russia in 9th ranked 2015, and in 2010 Egypt was ranked 18 with 14 million tourists. In 2015 it is ranked 35th with 9 million tourists. These tables display the countries that provide tourism as a main source of income. We would show in Egypt, are we targeting the markets? We see China, USA, Germany, Italy, Canada, France. Now let us give an overview of the performance of the sector in Egypt. From 1992 to 2016, you find that the highest rate was achieved in 2010, 14 millions. The latest in 2016 reduced to 5 million. Reaching the last 6 months in 2017, we achieved 3 million tourists. Regarding a number of tourist nights, average stay from 2007-2008, the biggest for the indicators and averages happened in 2012-2013. The least was in 2015-2016. Average period of stay, according to the latest in 2016, a slight improvement. September we started with 6 nights until May 2017, 10 nights per average as average. As for tourism revenues, 12.5 billions in 2012. In 2016, $2.7 billion. The first 7 months of 2017, we reached $3.5 billion, and so this gives us a promise. This is promising that we would improve. How does this sector contribute in the product and services exportation? The highest was 2010-2011, the lowest 2015-2016 by 22.4%. In this table we observe that the countries that come to Egypt come from the top 10 countries. So we target healthy or good markets. In addition to Arab countries, due to the neighborliness and the good relationships. Some countries, since 2010-2016, we found that 2016 is the latest. In 2010, there was prosperity in tourism. And usually when we compare, we do a benchmark. Germany, UK, and Italy, there's a reduction. Italy reduced from 18.7% to 2.4% in 2016. And we notice that Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, China, Kuwait raised. Here, the classification of tourists according to the means of transportation. By air, 91% is the means taken by tourists, which means that we highly depend on air transport. Occupancy in hotels, we reduced in 2016 to 25.4%. occupancy rate in floating and fixed hotels, March and April 2016, same 2 months this year, there's an improvement in the indicators for the two types of hotels. But we would also notice that between March 2017 and April 2017, there is a reduction in the occupancy rate, which means that some floating hotels got out of service. Classification of tourists according to the purpose of visit. Leisure and entertainment is 95%, whereas the rest is slim, even including cultural, 0.6, which is 0.6%, despite all the privileges that Egypt is rich with. As for the cover rates of Egypt, more than 50% of fixed hotels are concentrated in Red Sea and South Sinai, until a New Valley, which occupies 1.7%. The third point, we compare our situation with a number of selected countries. The countries which we selected as benchmarking countries are 3 groups, as Dr. Abla mentioned. The first, role models, France, UK, Netherlands, Tunisia, Algeria. We select these groups as they have good performance, and we consult with the experts in this field to make sure that we are close to these groups. This is a kind of coding to facilitate the vision. Red, Egypt has poor performance. Green is good performance. Yellow is average. From this table, countries on the right side are countries that bring to us the biggest number of tourists. Now, I want to compare myself with them. Egypt's share of China is 0.06. USA, 0.23. Russia, 6.8%, largest share. But this is in 2014, according to latest data, which is published for comparison reasons. But then in Russia, there is an embargo or air travel ban, so this affected adversely number of tourists coming from Russia. We are more than Tunisia and Jordan, but we are less than the rest of countries that we are comparing ourselves with. If we compare out of number of tourists going to the world, Egypt's quota 2010 to 2015 reduced from 1.5% to 0.8%. And we are standing at a midway with other countries. Revenues coming from tourism. Our quota is very slim compared with the role models and competitive countries, but we are surpassing the neighboring countries. Share of entertainment and tourism. Here we compare ourselves with the rest of the world. Tourism for entertainment purposes, if we compare it with the world, there is balanced distribution in the different touristic activities. Tourism and entertainment 2015 was 53%. This is for entertainment. According to the means of transportation or arrival, our distribution is not balanced if I compare myself to the world. By air, 91%, whereas in the world, 54% only using air transport. Here, the contribution of the sector in the GDP between Egypt and the selected group of countries in 2016. Egypt comes last in the rest of regarding the rest of the countries, whereas Morocco is progressing in the indicator of direct contribution in GDP. In total direct and indirect, Jordan is surpassing us. For the second indicator, the contribution in creating jobs, also Egypt is in a very low rank, whereas Greece is progressing in both indicators, which means there are lots of lost opportunities in creating more jobs in this sector. The share of the tourism in services and products, it's 11%, whereas the rest of the world is 6%. Jordan is progressing in this indicator. Here we would display the expected growth rate of these contributions that we talked about for the year 2017. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, direct contribution and total contribution, Egypt is standing in a midway. We are less than the world average. Greece is progressing in both indicators. As for the same expected growth rate in creating jobs, our indicators is in the negative and highly low compared with the rest of the selected countries in MENA region or the rest of the world. As for contribution in exports, we are lagging behind the selected countries. It's highly low. Greece is the one at the forefront. This is the expected growth rate in the coming 10 years, 2017 to 2027, for the same three indicators we talked about. Here we would notice a better position for Egypt. Egypt is expected over the coming 10 years to have a developed position, and also for creating jobs. We're also progressing in both indicators except Turkey. Turkey would surpass us in its direct contribution creating jobs. As for contribution in exports, we are higher in value regarding expected growth rate. What does this mean? It means that we have a promising future in the sector of tourism in the coming 10 years. This would not happen now, today in 2017, but all throughout the coming 10 years this may happen. But taking into consideration that international studies always assume the raw potential, which means that we need to use all our untapped potential, all our resources, and we should not adopt the same policies. In order to achieve these positive results, this requires us to adopt new policies that are coping with these expectations. Here we go to the competitiveness indicator for travel and tourism in 2017. Underneath, there are four enabling environment, tourism, travel policies and circumstances, infrastructure, natural and cultural resources. As for the enabling environment, business community, health, hygiene, safety, security, job market, preparedness of ITC. The second sub is policies related to travel and tourism, whether we give priority to tourism or not, price competitiveness, and environmental sustainability. The third is infrastructure. Infrastructure is classified to land, air transport, tourist services. And the last is natural resources, cultural resources, and business trips. As for the general indicator, in the latest report, Egypt ranks 74th. It progressed 9 ranks in the 2015 report. However, we are still having a low rank. We're only surpassing the 2 countries, which are Tunisia and Jordan. The 4 sub-indicators: enabling environment, infrastructure, policies. Egypt is having a low rank in the enabling environment, average position in the last 2 indicators. And when we talk in details, this would clear out. The first sub-indicator, which is the enabling environment. Egypt is having a low rank, and it's in the lowest ranks in safety and security. Reasons of this are attributed to what is mentioned in the report according to the scores given to every factor. Most importantly, the terrorist attacks Egypt witnessed in the last few years. The second, preparedness of ITC and communication. The report attributed the lag to a number of factors, including power cuts, internet speed, low number of internet users. The third sub-indicator, which is related to the policies of travel and tourism. Egypt is ranked 2nd in the price competitiveness. It's a very progressing position due to the low prices of hotels, the low purchasing power of the Egyptian pound. We're also lagging behind in the anchor related to world openness. Due to the limited openness to the bilateral agreements on travel and aviation agreements, despite Egypt's progress that it made in visa issuances. Giving priority to travel and tourism, Egypt is having an average position. Some deficiencies mentioned in the report related to the poor media campaigns, and the priority is not duly given to the sector. As for infrastructure, we are lagging behind the rest of the countries in comparison due to the lack of having a sufficient number of ATM machines, parking lots, air transport, the low number of airports, low number of domestic flights. As for infrastructure of ports, seaports, and land ports, Egypt also is lagging behind, except for Tunisia, due to the uneven roads, unpaved roads. As for natural and cultural resources, we're having a high rank. We rank 22. We surpass Greece and other neighboring countries, thanks to the number of searches on cultural and natural resources on the internet and the number of archaeological sites. Natural resources, we are lagging behind, except for Jordan, due to the declining number of natural product rates. This is a preliminary view based on the reality and on what Egypt should target in the future. These four fields, in a natural or normal analysis, due to the nature of the tourism sector, there is a big difference in these titles that we cannot attach to the tourism sector. The first one, cultural diving activities. This is a point of strength for Egypt. Cultural tourism, Egypt really has a comparative advantage in this activity. However, eventually, it has its own limits and parameters. In the whole world, cultural tourism represents only 60% of the different types. It used to be 60, now it represents 15% only. So worldwide, there is a decline of cultural tourism. However, if it still stands at 15%, Egypt should acquire the largest share of this 15%. As for seashore and diving activities, still there are limits. The erosion of coral reefs, that we cannot exploit it to the maximum because it has its own environmental limits. What are the lost opportunities for Egypt? And in a number of tourism sectors, we need to make good use of. These types could activate the two types, such as healing, food, adventure, cinema, conferences, the tourism of disabilities. If a doctor would come to attend a conference, we could organize a cultural visit for him, or a tourist visit for him. The fourth sector in this observatory are the factors that affect Egypt's competitiveness in comparison with the selected countries. Initially, after consulting with the experts and studying its situation, comparatively it is low, despite the low prices. However, this does not achieve a remarkable effect in our share in the world market. And the negative media, what the negative media in the world is talking about Egypt, the poor marketing of Egyptian products, the decline of the aviation movement in Egypt, although we showed that aviation or air transport is the one that we rely on heavily. Positively, we have multitude of products. We have cultural, conference, desert tourism, etc., etc. Thankfully, we don't have natural catastrophes such as floods or earthquakes. As for the negative effects, there is no vision to achieve the sustainability in this sector, and the oscillation of prices. Also, the staff in tourism, although the stakeholders do not promote Egypt efficiently. Lastly, what are the priority policies in light of the world trends and problems? There are problems that tourism is suffering from, such as the negative media about Egypt. Egypt was subjected to some travel bans by some countries. Some countries lifted the ban, such as Norway, Belgium, and Germany, but some other countries maintained the travel ban.
حوالي 32 جهة.
It's difficult to issue licenses for tourist facilities. Tourism is not linked efficiently with the industries which is providing it with commodities. We can use tourism as a mechanism to promote other sectors. Poor tourism development, lack of skilled labor who are in direct contact with the tourism's internet networks is not stable. Poor compliance with laws, unpaved roads, lack of complementary services. In other words, in the North Coast, villages lack supermarkets and other facilities and utilities. Absence of the different degrees of hotels, 2 or 3 star hotels or motels. The quality of service inside these motels is very low. Lack of good transportation or appropriate transportation for disabled people. Staff and stakeholders should have updated data to promote tourism. Some tourist and travel companies are suffering high turnover of employees and budgetary constraints. Here, there are world trends. What Egypt should do to comply with these world trends, to ameliorate the sector in Egypt? First, those who are interested in technology are called the Millennium Travelers. Millennium Travelers do everything online, book online, watch photos about the hotels, do everything online before they visit the country, so it requires us to give due attention. Like a trip advisor, we give more reviews. Also, the tendency of the elderly, which is called the baby boomers, who are born from 1946 to 1964, 99% of this category go to make one trip abroad per annum. This is how it is called in English, baby boomers. We need to improve the services, hygiene. We should provide them appropriate programs that are not exhausting to them because they are elderly. Higher demand on adventure, mountain climbing, and safari tourism. We need to promote that we have safety and security, like in St. Catherine Mount, and to promote that it's appropriate for climbing. Higher demand on low and averagely priced hotels and motels. The whole world is facing an economic problem, so we need to give due attention to the 2 and 3 star motels. The escalating demand and improvement in the food tourism, such as in Dubai. Many people came to the Nubian village and they enjoyed the food. China is spending a lot on tourism, so we could encourage the big Chinese travel agents to come to Egypt to promote and to attract tourists from this country. Taking photos, lots of photos, posting them on Instagram and Facebook, provide tools to boost the sites, tourist sites, easily. Also, there is a high number of online booking. Many people are using online booking now. We could promote that this service is existent in Egypt. Lastly, promoting the tourism of conferences and exhibitions, to create convention bureaus, to promote hotels and the congress halls and conference halls that will be newly launched, like in the administrative capital. Policies, priority policies. I would like to say that Russia has exerted great efforts. I would like to go back to one point because it was supposed to be in the first part, the squares of the rising star and the lost opportunity and the missed opportunity. A rising star for any product that is a product, and the international demand is increasing, and Egypt is also going upward. So I am going in the on the right track. The falling star is where the global demand is decreasing while I'm increasing. So the lost opportunity, that's clear. So it is increasing globally, and I lost this opportunity. So the correct box is neither I nor the world is interested in this field. So cultural tourism in the worldwide is decreasing. It was 60%, now it is 15%. While we have a very distinguishing cultural tourism, and we have to make best use of it out of this 15%. That is the point I wanted to add. And I go back to the high road and the low road. For the high road, we lifted the ban of some countries, and we try to give some temporary solutions to individual institutions. We rely on the low prices for the attraction of tourists. That is a catastrophe because the value of our products are very low, and now our products won't be sold. So the competitiveness, price competitiveness as a solution, that's not the solution. And in order to increase the price, we have to make an added value or to provide an added value to the tourist, and this will be costly. This is all the low road. For the high road, we have to review the financial position of the tourist institutions. The tourist agencies suffered a lot, and they don't know how they could cope and be able to still work to operate in the market. We need to have also a detailed budget for comprising all sectors. We have diving, pilgrimage, and cultural tourism. Each type of tourism has its own problems. This must be done in cooperation with line ministries and the private sector. Tourism and aviation are two parallel issues, and then the private sector and the parliament. And we have to have pre-promotion. These are only examples instead of building hotels. Or we have to complete what we have, like the North Coast. We have resorts, but where are the recreational or entertainment locations? So, out of this event or out of this positioning, we have to develop strategies What do you mean by strategy? That there is a target and I want to meet this target and also to meet the objective within a specific timeline, and all the procedures must be set up. Who is in charge and the timeline of implementation, define sources of financing, KPIs, not only performance and the end results. And if there is a policy must be adopted by the Parliament. This we have to set up a timeline for making pressure on the Parliament and so on. Sylvia will do this. So to be discussed in the Parliament, and then the executive procedure will be rapid. So also the executive procedures are subject to KPIs. So if this model is adopted and I offer the ECS services with the private sector and the ministry and with the Parliament, so we can develop a real strategy to be a guideline for everybody.